Now, as far as where my direction is going now, I recently just posted that I took a trip to my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri. And as a part of book 2, which is surrounded around the young teenage mother, the young teenage student that had no idea on how to be a mom. That's this book. The reason I am just as equally careful as if not more careful with this book than the first one. The first one took a long time to come out when God said so, because I see why people have gotten so much from that one encounter with my voice in that book and my stories and my narratives. But this book is just not about me. It's about people that I was connected to during that time in my life. And also it's part of my children's legacy. So I'm not rushing anything about that because this is my experience from my perspective. So when I went back home to St. Louis, I had a chance to reconnect with my older 2 children's father. And that wasn't intentional. It was and wasn't. My intentions was to go see my family, and he is a part of my family. So to hear the amount of healing, the amount of respect that we still have for one another, the amount of misperceptions and misunderstandings at 40 plus, the amount of pain and anguish, and the amount of excuses that we make. Sometimes we have to sit in that thing and be brave enough and not cower out behind excuses, but just sit in that thing and face and say, tell me how you feel. And then I express to you how I feel. And then we still can see the present day mistake versus hanging on to the past. Okay, we can dispel what we think happened and why, what whoop-de-whoop. But present day, what have we done to cause effectual change in the lives of one another and our children or ourselves and people around us? So when that starts to happen, you start to debunk what you chose to hold on to, because that could have been true for that month or that year or that childhood memory or that immature phase of our lives. But when we sitting as mature adults or seasoned in hard work, making it work, being mindful of how our choices affect others, when you sitting in your present day as a grown person, it sit different. It speaks different. It hears different. And thankfully, he was able to hear me. I was able to hear him. And the voice that was unheard is the children. So as I transition my brand, I think that I've been hearing over and over in my spirit that I have to target I knew I would target teenage parenting, but how I was going to target it, because a lot of people that look up to me see this version. I couldn't talk about that version without mending fences with people that was in that version of Avis. And the love and the communication and the conversation that was held with my children's father and I, it's closed so many doors and offered so many lives of possibilities if you do the work. I always say that somebody can rectify something in one encounter. 2 words. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Putting forth the effort to try. Doing something that's not prompted and evoked by somebody pushing you or nudging you to do it. You can change the blemish and the stain and the residue of the unmet need that you placed on somebody and burden that you placed on somebody for you being absent in their life by just doing. Not for me, not for you, but just doing what you need to do from this point forward. That goes for all of us. So book 2 is about the teenage girl, the transition to a teenage mother of not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 kids. And left behind a body of pent up anger, pent up depression, pent up anguish, pent up energy, pent up loss for words on some situations, and a lot of misunderstandings, and also a lot of unclosed doors. So this is one of the toughest and one of the greatest journeys and resolutions I've faced in a long time, and it's been great. I would never change it for the world at all. So that's where I'm at with book 2. I think that this trip for my birthday that was just so boom, just came from out of nowhere. I'm going to St. Louis. That's how that was on a Wednesday. Bought my ticket on a Thursday, was out on a Friday. I believe that God knew what I needed in that space. God knew what my family needed. It wasn't just about my children's father, but the encounters I had was so divine. And I say it again, I said it on my last video. That is immeasurable. And it reminded me how invaluable I am, that I need to be to myself. You know, sometimes we feel that something defines us, or we feel that we're lost, or we're out there by ourselves and nobody understands. But when you focus on the hardest things in your life, the things that you aborted and left lingering, the things that you feel will never be resolved, when you spend time and soak up how important that is in your life, you learn that you have become invaluable. If you've changed your ways, if you turned away from things that you know better than to do now, you can go and face that thing without any anger, without all those negative attributes that it once carried. It has no weight, it has no power. And you lead with love. My message in my trip to St. Louis was leading in love. Sitting in someone telling me what they felt and actively listening, not waiting to get back and strike back, not waiting. It took 25 years to get to that point. Not waiting to have a rebuttal, not waiting to be right, not waiting to say, I knew you was going to say that because I was waiting for 25 years for you to say that because I'm going to say, whoop, 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 whoop. No, I debunk with fact. I debunk with where we're at right now. What am I looking for? What am I hearing as a result to this? What action have you presented that is going to change the narrative of what you know and I know did or did not take place? It's called self-accountability, guys. That's all I want. I'm 48. I just turned 48. That's all I want. That's all I've been wanting. Especially when I turned 40, I realized that I can't even give people excuses no more. You know what I mean? Because they really don't put a lot of emphasis on making excuses. They just tell you anything, keep it moving. I used to look for logic in what people said. I used to look for over understanding what people were saying. But now I'm like, the resolution is, it lies and rests in your action at this very moment. So my action in that very moment was to acknowledge and honor the way that person feels and to lead with my heart. Because what attracted you to me, whether it's a relationship, a family situationship, whatever it is, what attracted, I'm going to say for me, what attracts me to people is their heart, not their exterior. A lot of people say, oh, you like a lot of ugly people. You friends with a lot of, no, they're not ugly. Their spirit is so beautiful to me because they outshine a lot of people that think they're cute. What always I've been anchored in is love. And for people that has had a loss of love, a lapse of love, a searching for something in their immediate family from their parents, you lead with your heart because that's what you want in return. So I wasn't misunderstood on the heart of the person that didn't show up for me like I thought they would when they entered into my life in another position. I want to remember that I have a gift of seeing your heart and your spirit. And I entered into something that I fully know you may have had good intentions, but you were unqualified for the position, which disqualified you for that position. And maybe you just didn't know how to say that. There is quite a few more people that that God has to put me in a place, in an environment where this type of closure needs to happen, because the healing saturated every encounter I had in last week. Every encounter, everything that entered into that positive energy leading with God's love in your heart was healed. From laying of the hands to the soothness of God's spirit coming out through my words, through the exchanges, through people's heart being opened up where they told me, you have restored and made me revisit feelings that I've chose to shut out, that I've chose to numb down with other things, that I've chose to bottle up and keep in pain and in bondage. And it wasn't Avis. It's closure for us both. That means that I know and acknowledge and yield to what God showed me about you when I first met you. So I choose to stay right there with you, even though things that happen in our relationships, neither one of us were probably qualified to be in that position, but we chose to become trained, become astute. We chose to show up for that job position as a parent, as a friend, as a sister, as a brother, as a mother, as a father. You choose to learn how to be better than what was done to you or better than your feelings about a situation. So I'm no longer upset on how God built me for the position. I'm no longer depressed about how I'm going to make it through, because that was back when I had to trust that God was continually helping me to get through those things, those challenging things that I chose. Okay? So, that was a lot, y'all. So, in saying all that to say, those doors are closed. It's time for a new day. You could turn the page. So I just wanted to say that's what that book is about. So it's an embodiment of different people that have different perceptions of what's going to be said. I will never disrespect anyone and put names or specific entities. It's all around my evolution. The evolution of being someone's mom, the mother of four, the evolution of going through the trenches with friends that to this day I can't wait to see. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my purpose. And that I'm so delicate with the lives of every person and every entity in my life that I appreciate your eagerness to read the second book. I appreciate your eagerness in your emails and your phone calls and your texts about what's next. But I truly abide in God when he tells me to move on things like this, because I know he trusts that I will deliver what he says to deliver, not get in my way, not have no feelings about it, and that it will reach people at a glance, just like the first book. So please rest in that with me. Pray for me. Pray for those who don't know how to articulate these things. Pray for people that don't know how to write down their feelings and emotions. That's just learning to journal. That don't have the gifts of the speaking ability to be able to translate, not just in words and on pages, but just in front of audiences, to do vlogs. I thank God for my gifts. I thank God that he's trusting and using me. And that is what your girl is doing. All right. I'm so happy what God has for everybody who wants to choose to come up to the plate and who is mature enough at their point in their life and their development to express themselves in a way that you can lead with the love of God in your heart, to where you don't want to remove yourself from that situation until it's resolved. God, that's good love. We got a misinterpretation of what good love is. That's real good love. That'll make you fall back in love, but fall back in love with yourself first. And know what to say no to, and know what just is. It's closure. It don't mean you got to revisit nothing. It don't mean that this is going to be the future. It means that the love that you set forth for that person, that you had envisioned that y'all would be, or that you seen in that person at first glance when you first met them, is still there. But it's all about what we choose and how we choose to interact with one another once we become in a new position with one another. Once we become involved with one another, we want to make sure that love and that heart spreads out to the different components of our relationship, and that we never abort or abandon that we never neglect that, because then that first glance or first falling in love at first sight type situation is out the door, because real life steps in and you got to put on your boots, you got to put on your armor, and you got to get in there and go through the trenches with that person you claim you love. Even when you're in your pain, when you're in your destructive behaviors, you got to get inside of that and remember you lead with God's love, and God is going to have your back, your sides, your front. He's going to send his angels to war on your behalf. He's going to send his guards to encamp around you and keep a hedge of protection around that sacred place. But we have to be obedient. We have to be able to hear from him, and we have to be able to desire to be God-like. So we all making mistakes, but I'm just thankful that I knew what I seen in people at first glance. And when I was disappointed, I held on to that, which prevented me and kept me from speaking bad on people, kept me from not one day talking bad about my kids' fathers, kept me from one day not turning my kids against their fathers, kept me from not one day going to court, taking them for this. They could have come and got them. But respectfully, it's all about what we was going to show up to do. And that would have proved, that debunks a lot of things. So I just came on here to tell you about book 2, baby. That's how deep this thing about to go. So enjoy reading or listening to my audiobook for The Price of Evolutions, book 1, so you can get a better understanding of my voice. I narrated it. I am pursuing different career endeavors in voiceover. It's very difficult. You have to build a studio. So I'm not interested in doing that part. So I'm going to just try to go this other direction. But that is something that I have been asked over and over again ever since I started broadcasting my voice. People like it. So go revisit book 1. If you have the actual paperback, take it with you when you're out and just flip to a page or flip to a chapter. Let it resonate in your spirit. Go to my audiobook on every platform that has audiobooks, Ava Cherie. It's there. Also, get the Life After COVID book for you, for your children. I'm still working on a children's book. Not as easy as I thought, but I knew that. Nothing ever is. And that's okay. The children's book, it's really going to be significant because kids are getting acclimated to what this new normal looks like as far as school. So we know we got a few more weeks and weeks and weeks of them being at home. A lot of people being at home teaching the children virtually. So this book is going to combine all of that. And then I want to try to give kids an outlet to be able to express what that situation was like. So I'm going to take my time and I'm going to interview some children of school age to just see how they felt during that process. Of course, I'm gonna interview my grandkids, y'all. My little nieces and stuff, my extended nieces, my little baby nieces, and just see how they felt and let them take up some leadership in how they want to go forward and their concerns. And that's what I said when I was going into this children's book endeavor, that I wanted to really get the feedback of the little ones so they can build their own platforms, you know, to express themselves openly and honestly. So let's see. I think that's it for my updates. I'm going to get into these Food for Your Soul vlogs, and I will be right back.